as the Charter School Review Committee, which is already staffed with pro-charter people. They were reviewing the performance of several of their charter schools. Okay, and I'll tell you this, only one, they have like 10 or 11 charters, only one is performing where it should be.
Any more questions?
The rest are below. And that's how this woman stood up from MTech in Madison, and she says, oh, you're low performing, and we're going to give you $1.5 million. And so the principal of the school is sitting there saying, shh, you know, didn't want us to know it. But too bad, we got it.
I have a question. Here in Beloit, we really pride ourselves in our diversity, and diversity in the classroom, diversity of teachers. We just have a very strong, diverse community. I did go to the panel, the Pro Voucher panel a couple weeks ago, and the gentlemen were talking about the fact, well, we have, you know, a lot of schools that are all Latino, and we have other schools that are all African American, and other schools that are all white, but you know, the parents choose, so it's okay. Can you speak a little bit to that segregation within the voucher program?
Sure. What we're finding out is, especially in the African American community, as you heard before, we've had like 23 years of this. So now we got adults who are uneducated, who have had children. So now these people cannot make informed decisions. They don't know how. They don't know anything. They don't know what to ask. When we go to these meetings and we have parents there, they're worried about what color the uniform is going to be. They don't ask about the curriculum. They don't ask about the focus of the school. They don't, there's another thing that's in our community tends to draw people in. If you say it's a Christian school, if you say it's college prep, a kindergarten, a school that's K-3 through 4th grade, college prep, how does that compute? And you think that that's going to make your kid eligible for college. They have no clue. So when people choose these schools, that's why we're called Women Informed. We want not necessarily that you choose this school or this school, but be able to make an informed decision as to where you put your child. Don't just put your child somewhere just because you put your kid there and you put your kid there. Your kid may have different needs. And as a teacher, children have different needs. You need to know your child. You need to know how your child learns.
And then to specifically answer your question on race, Milwaukee's living patterns are very segregated. So primarily the Hispanic community is to the south of the city, and African American and Asian to the north. The culture of the Hispanic community, they've informed us clearly. They believe in traditional Catholic schools. So all of the Catholic schools and the Lutheran schools on the south side are primarily have joined the choice program. And that way, I know I paid for my kids whenever they went to religious school. This makes it for free. This program makes it for free. On the flip side, they don't have that many vouchers on the south side because the Hispanic community goes to the Catholic. So there's very few.
And they're very vocal about adhering to some of these things coming into their community. They're not happy. And they told us that. And,
right.
You know, quite frankly, I don't blame them. Hurt your children. These are your children. This is your future. So, yeah, it's very, very segregated. The east side of the city, same way. Lutheran, Catholic. There's, I think, maybe 2 high schools that are voucher or chartered schools on the east side. But the elected officials and school board directors, they fight for their constituents. In our community, folks who look like us don't do that. Because they've had 20 years of not being educated, so they don't know. And it's really hard to get them to understand what is actually going on with this process.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for the superintendent. Is that possible, or we just ask a question?
We've got time for about one more question so that we can stay on our 8:30 commitment to being out of here. So, Mr. McNeil, do you want to address it? Okay.
Yeah, my question just was, what would make the school district be put on such a program for vouchers? And also, with the model we have in Roy Chapman Andrews, I think, is that high school performing better than our high school, the public high school, being that that's a charter school?
You know, that depends on the year and, of course, the population. They actually showed great gains this year, Roy Chapman Andrews, so it was a good year for them. And in the academic gains, it just came out their WKCs. We had great gains across our district. I mean, the cut scores were different this year, so they look a little different, but we did show great gains across our district. The answer to the first question is why Beloit got selected. If you really look at the 9 school districts that were added to it, they're all urban. And so they're all school districts that are large school districts, the largest in Wisconsin, really the most diverse populations if you look at it. The governor and those that concocted this idea said that we're going to go after failing schools. Well, there's some 180 some failing schools in the state of Wisconsin, according to their state report card, which was never intended to be used in this fashion, okay? Because it's a 3-year average of grades and scores and all of that. That's a different philosophical thing. But if you look at it, it's those schools that have 3 or more or whatever from the large urban communities. And unfortunately, because there's 186 or whatever across Wisconsin, you have so many small districts. I sat next to Greg Thornton, the superintendent of Milwaukee, at a superintendent meeting one day, and we're talking, and somebody was reporting out that, do you guys realize that in the state of Wisconsin, 50% of the school districts had less than 1,000 kids in it, okay? And at that time, Greg turned to me and he said, we lose about 3.5 school districts every year in Milwaukee to charter schools or to vouchers. And so, I mean, it kind of gives you that realization that the small districts that are primarily white, they're excluded from this. And so, you know, it's just kind of, honestly, it's an attack to urban districts. So, yes.
Thank you, Steve. John? Just real quick, when you talk about Roy Chapman Andrews, you're talking about a charter school that is an instrumentality of the School District of Beloit. It's connected to us. There's an umbilical cord there. And so that's different from the independent charter schools and the other kinds of charter entities that we heard about that are in Milwaukee. Independent charter schools are part of this same program. The independent charter schools can be chartered by a group that is not here in Beloit at all, that is a group that can be appointed political appointees in Madison. And there's no element of local control. Your school district has a school board of local residents who are elected by local citizens. There is no such provision in terms of representative local school boards connected with the voucher program. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Okay, if anyone has questions for Marva or Gail, they've agreed to stay around after we conclude tonight. In closing tonight, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. And being a part of this program. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for your great insights on what makes great public schools and why we need to keep them here in Beloit. So thank you to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to act. You have the opportunity to contact your state representatives, your state senators. We have Maggie Gail from Janice Ringhand's office here tonight. Janice is a great friend of public education, but it is time now to contact your local legislators, your senators, and let them know that we want to keep our public schools great at Beloit, and that we do not need vouchers coming here to the city of Beloit, or to any of the other cities that are targeted across the state of Wisconsin. So, if you have your pledge cards tonight, Michael Walsh in the back. Michael, would you raise your hand, please? He's right there. If you have your pledge card and want to turn it into Michael for the step up, please do that on your way out. Thank you all again for coming. If you'd like to take some refreshments with you as you leave, please do that. And thank you if you continue to support great public schools in Beloit.